This video is part 2 of our art commission series. Be sure to check out part 1 that's all about pricing commissions with the link in the description. Don't do commissions without a ToS. Like, don't do it without a ToS. For those who don't know, ToS stands for Terms of Service. These are your rules when you are taking a commission, like what you will and won't draw, what payment type you take, so on and so forth. The ToS is how you set boundaries as an artist, right? Some artists will have commissioners sign contracts or terms of service before taking a commission for extra safety, right? So they'll have them sign a contract for, like, the artist's well-being, the artist's safety. You can have a ToS on a separate document, or you can have them directly on your commission sheet. Like, I tend to include them directly on the commission sheet. I think I'm going to change that next year. But sometimes when you don't really have a really detailed ToS, you might just have like another section of your commission sheet that's like, this is what I will and won't draw, and like, this is the kind of payment I take, stuff like that. You could totally just have them included on the commission sheet as it is, or you can have them like, say, like you have like an uneditable Google Doc that has a list of your terms of service when you are being commissioned to work. Some things that you might want to include on your ToS, your terms of service, what you will and will not draw is a really standard one. The only reason that you really need to say like, hey, I don't draw this is like, maybe you're just not comfortable with it. Me personally, I don't take mech commissions. I'm like, it's one of the few things I won't do is like, I won't do mecha, I won't do huge robots, not because like I hate them, but because I personally don't trust my skill in them. Like, I'll do them for myself, but I don't think I'm advanced enough with mechs to comfortably say like, oh, I can do this for you. This is something that I can easily illustrate for you. I don't really say a lot of things that I won't do, but like, some people won't do like overly violent things, some people won't draw like animals, some people won't, you know, it depends on the person. Mechs are pretty common, but it is like, you know, it depends on who is taking your commissions. The reasoning doesn't have to be anything intense, just maybe you just don't want to do it. How many revisionary periods are allowed? With me, I tend to include 2 revisionary periods, one after the sketching phase is done and one after everything is done, because I'm like, okay, you can have like minor last things that you want to change. And then like during the sketching phase, like I haven't even started completion yet, so if anything big needs to be changed during that portion, they can be. But these should not be unlimited, right? You should never have unlimited revisions. Even within those revisionary periods, I give a max of 3 edits, because anything more than that's going to take me way too long. So revisions will take time. They will take extra time on you for your commission, right? So it shouldn't be something that is completely unlimited. So make sure that you are limiting the amount of time that they can take to make edits. So again, maybe 2 revisionary periods with 3 edits within the max, depends on who you are. But that generally tends to be my rule of thumb. When you will take payment, right? Please avoid allowing full payment once the piece is complete. I would love to believe wholeheartedly in in human empathy, but you know, what could happen is you finish the entire piece and then you send them off like, hey, it's like, how do you feel about this? And then they just run. And then you don't get any payment at all. So try to avoid allowing full payment after the piece is complete. Either all payment up front or half and half, or have a down payment of some kind in the beginning, followed by the rest upon completion, right? And that way that they're kind of locked in, right? With me specifically, what I do is I personally like to set like money amounts for like, okay, this is when you can start charging in 2s, this is when you can start charging in 3s. So for me, once it hits 300 USD, then I allow payments in 2s. So I go, okay, you can pay me once now, and then the second half you could pay me whenever you're ready, and you have to give it to me once it's completed in order for me to release the full file to you. So say if somebody got a commission for like 320, let's say, so then I'm like, okay, well, if it's 320 USD, I'm like, great, you're eligible for 2 parts. So you can pay half of that 160 up front. And once I am done the commission, or once you have the funds available, you can give me that second half for your piece's release. So I can go, okay, I finished the piece, now just let me know when you're ready to pay for this second half, and then that is when I will save the full file and hand it off to you. Taking a deposit prevents the project from being abandoned or canceled after you've already put in time and energy, right? So if you've already been putting in a lot of time, putting in a lot of energy into this project that you're working on, there is always a chance that they just don't want to do it anymore. By putting in that deposit, you're gonna have to see it to completion because, you know, maybe it's just non-refundable. What type of payment you can use, right? What type of payment you can take. Checks and e-transfers are not usually recommended for security and scam reasons, as like that's a really big thing with like people who take commissions through Instagram. They'll get a lot of like scam commissioners that are like, here, I'll send you a check for this commission. The problem with checks is that they could be really easily like taken back, or they can just be fraudulent checks. Like they can be like, oh, I'm gonna give you this check for this amount of money. They give it to you and then it turns out there was no money attached to it at all. So just be really careful with those. Generally not recommended. E-transfers are iffy. The problem is mostly just like information taking. So just be really careful with those. But most people will use PayPal. I see PayPal really frequently. I use PayPal. You can use Stripe, Venmo. You know, there's lots of different like payment types that you can use, but payment portals like PayPal or Stripe offer some protection against like fraudulent transactions. So there are some like chargeback requests that can happen, which you can dispute. If it happens, like it shouldn't. That's another thing you can put on your TOS. No chargebacks. Yeah, they can help with fraud a little bit better. Before we continue, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor for today, ArtDen. It can be hard to find commissions, but lucky for us art nerds is a new app called ArtDen, where you can post and request commissions, manage orders, and accept payments all in one place. Go download the beta app now and you'll have taken your first step into getting a commission. Link in the description. Communication termination. Now, this is something that not a lot of people talk about. I learned this one the hard way. If your commissioners do not respond to inquiries or don't reply within a certain amount of time, you can consider their commission spot forfeit. Like if they request a commission spot and they're like, okay, this is what like I want to do. And then I'm like, all right. And then I go like, hey, this is like this amount of money now. And they ghost you. There's no point in like you being, hey, where are you? Every like week or every 5 days, right? There's no point in that. So you set a time frame and give follow-ups within that time just to double check if they're still interested or missed the first message. So my time frame is around 2 weeks because I've had a commissioner where like I gave them the price and they were like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then I'm like, great. I'm like, can I get the email to send the invoice to? And they give it to me. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, make sure that that's paid up front. And then that's when I will start working. And they didn't for like a month. And I was like, okay, well, what am I gonna do now? So communication termination is really, really important, especially if they come back and they're like, hey, I'm gonna pay now. And I'm like, well, you left me for like a month, so no, you've lost your spot. Make sure you're keeping yourself accountable too, right? As much as you want to keep your commissioners accountable, you should also be replying to your commissioners fairly frequently. So for me, I tend to reply immediately or the next day when they have inquiries, but you want to try to reply to a person within 5 days. Illustration rights, right? Your illustration rights. What rights do you as the artist keep and what rights do the commissioner have to the piece? Because like obviously you shouldn't give them full rights to any piece that you are creating, right? You are commissioning their character, like whatever it is that you are doing to them, but like they should only have a fraction of the rights. So what I tend to include with me is like I have the right to use the piece for portfolio purposes or for future commission examples. Tend to be the two that I use. I own the original and retain the rights to use the illustration as I see fit. For example, I can use the illustration for self-promotion, but I can't use it to sell merchandise. Can't just take the commission and be like, hey, I'm gonna use this for like merchandise now, because it is still a commission. No AI training, reselling, relicensing, or NFT usage. Those are some pretty big ones for me, because again, taking advantage of your work in more ways than one. No altering or repurposing of the illustration without my consent. If I can't use it on merchandise, neither can you, right? Unless they specifically ask for something like that, in which that should be added to the price of how much you are paying. But yeah, no altering or repurposing. So like if you are going to alter the original illustration, that kind of goes hand in hand with AI training as well. Don't, you're not allowed, right? I have illustrated this for you. It has been for like to your liking. We're gonna keep it that way. You can also ask to be credited on the artwork within reason. For example, if you're charging less for the piece because they're like a friend of yours or there's somebody that you know, you can still ask them and they should credit you or promote you. I work for a lot of streamers. I do a lot of like streaming assets and emotes and like backgrounds, banners. I've done some PNG tubers, right? And like my lovely streamer friends are great commissioners. They do lovely things, like especially if I show up on their Twitch channels or whatever, I tend to have the artist badge, or or I have like, say in like my partner's stream, I tend to have like, I have a command. So it's like if they talk about my artwork, then they'll be like, hey, it's like !Jess, and like my work pops up. So asking to be credited, it should always be within your right, especially with commissions that you do for people. And then last but certainly not least, complexity fees can be applied to any kind of commission. Make sure that you have that on there, because some people would be like, well, hey, you charge like, you said that this is $120 for a full body, and like, why is it more than that? Well, it's because of complexity fees. I tend to always tell my commissioners, I'm like, hey, this is going to be complex. There's going to be extra fees attached to it, but not everybody kind of got that memo. It's like, whoa, hey, I said I was going to pay this much, but why are you charging this much? Right? So sometimes things can be more difficult, right? Like needing to design something or clothing being incredibly complex, right? Charge more for that. Make sure you charge more for that. I always charge more for armor. I also tend to look at like pieces of clothing. Like I had a recent one where somebody wanted me to do this pretty complex, like koi fish pattern on like a kimono, and I was like, this needs to be extra because that's really like complicated. So charge more for things that you think will take you more than your estimated amount of time. Do you have anything specific that you put on your TOS? Leave a comment down below, and be sure to check out our other art commission videos, link in the description.
Join a virtual class to learn live from our professional artists. Get creative assignments, individual guidance, and real-time feedback on your artwork. Start today and level up your practice. If you learned something new, like and share this with a fellow art nerd.
Here's a couple other videos you can check out next.